We are back, baby. We're live here talking a little MMA action on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. And I got two of my co-hosts here, Dan and Showdown Christine. We're missing, of course, JBC, as he also probably most likely fell in a toilet somewhere and is lost at sea. So Dan, we'll be okay without Mark. We'll still pick some winners, but how you doing here on this Saturday morning?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Ready to talk some fights. It's not the best card, but we'll have some fun. We'll make some money regardless. So
that's all that matters. Making money at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Showdown Christine, you ready for your dog picks? I know you got a few dogs on this card. You got to.
Oh yeah. There's a couple, but I'll definitely announce my official pick.
All right. Well, I look forward to that. Guys, also hit that like button on the video if you enjoy this free show. Also at Run Pure Sports, we do have a promo code going right now. RPS15 is the promo. It'll get you up to 15% off your first month's payment over at Run Pure Sports. We have weekly, we have monthly, single sport action, the full package. Whatever you guys want, we have. If you just want the fighting, you just want the MMA content, you can get that. If you want NASCAR, PGA, all the sports, we have it for you over at Run Pure Sports here. RPS15 is that code for 15% off. All right, with that here, we've got the fight night card. Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy is the main event on this card, which I was just talking to you guys about before we went on. There might not be some of the greatest fights on this card, but I do actually like the main event fight. I do think this could be a really fun fight. Dan, just from an overall perspective, how you viewing this card?
We got a lot of heavy favorites. It is not the most exciting card. The top end is also really questionable. That's pretty much my overview so far. I haven't really gotten deep into building yet. I did a couple runs before we started because it's still a little bit early, but yeah, I think, one of the things I did notice though, is I will just run I'll just do a run with my rankings and then kind of load it up in my duplication checker. And I wasn't really running into too many lineups with heavy dupes. So I'm thinking that the dynamics of this slate, it should be pretty easy to get unique. Or you won't have to go too far off the board to get unique. There seems to be a lot of unique combinations.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's definitely a card too, where you could easily see a solo shipper, honestly, just from this standpoint, because we all know big favorites, but in MMA, everyone's got a shot still, and you got to take some big favorites. There's one actually big favorite on this card that we'll get to. That was a big favorite last time out and got his lights put out very early. So we'll get to the fights here. Showdown Christine, what are you feeling from the overall perspective of this card? Are you excited for it? Is it just one of those cards that you're just sitting here like, yeah, I got to talk about it because I got to talk about it, but I'm not really excited to watch it?
It's definitely not one of the most exciting cards of the year. There's a lot of people coming off of layoffs. There's a lot of unknowns, I would say. And I think for DraftKings, the pricing is really difficult because you have a lot of people on the high end that could bust, and then you have a lot of dogs that could come through. And it's going to be tough to figure that out because some people, as I said, have a lot of question marks. They've been off for 2 years, 1 year. You have 2 debuting fighters. So it's going to be a tricky one.
God, Christine, you sound so much better with the mic. I mean, it's just night and day with the mic here. So I'm feeling it on this card. Christine finally got her mic.
Yes.
Dan's gonna get a mic at some point. We're rolling here. We're ready to go. So let's start here. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up to the main card. And we've got Demopoulos and Ducote. Ducote is 9,200 on DraftKings. Demopoulos 7K on DraftKings. And Dan, I will start with you on these women's fights, as you are someone who's known for liking to kind of go overweight on some women's fights here. The one thing I will say before I throw it to you is you've got 2 fighters, one Demopoulos, who really I just don't feel like she's very good, but both are somewhat decision type fighters here. And she's a big dog here to Ducote. Do you see that as deserved at 9,200? And for DFS, could you play her at that price tag?
You can definitely play her just because of like just the variance of women's MMA, the in-fight actions. Like Dakota, she throws like okay volume. She's got good boxing, decent power. You could definitely see, I mean, you're gonna need like some takedowns and probably a knockdown, possibly an early finish, but she can also just get there on volume and takedowns. I think she is definitely the side I'm more interested in DFS despite the price. Like she's definitely like your contrarian pivot option up top. She's gonna be, I have her at 15% right now. So I'm happy to get over that. Demopoulos, just not very good at anything. And you could argue, you know, she's got some decision wins that are highly, highly questionable. Like that, a lot of fights she arguably should have lost. I don't know what's going on there. She's got, you know, she's got the judges on her side for some reason. So I think at 7K, you can't really rule out like a a shitty Demopoulos decision. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to get her in the optimal because you've got people priced below her that I think have more finishing upside.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have a little sprinkle of Demopoulos. I could see myself coming in under on her and then hating life when she somehow gets a split decision at the beginning of the night that scores somehow. But I have a hard time seeing her score very well regardless.
I have a hard time seeing either girl, honestly, scoring very well without a finish, to be honest with you, because I don't know if Ducote is just going to go for a ton of takedowns, because I think that's one way she gets there. And like you said, at that point, she's going to need a knockdown at least if she doesn't finish her. So, Showdown Christine, what do you feel with these women? Do you see more upside than we're seeing with either the dog or the favorite?
No, I agree with you guys. I think it's going to be a lower volume fight. I think outside of maybe Ducati getting some takedowns or something, I'm not too high on this fight. I'm definitely under the field. Ducati can throw a lot of volume, but you know, even with high volume in a striking match, it's not really ideal in terms of DraftKings scoring. So, and yeah, I'm pretty low on this fight. I think Demopoulos is at her price. You could take, I mean, if you're going to MME, I wouldn't rule her out necessarily because she can get, I don't know, maybe 30s, 40s in a decision. But I'm not too high on this fight at all. I think it's lower volume.
I think just one other thing I wanted to mention is Demopoulos, like her she's, you know, she wants to grapple, but her takedowns are fucking horrible. And you see it a lot of times where she will start out going for a takedown and then she'll realize it's not going to happen and she bails and pulls guard. And, you know, I think you can see Dakota rack up some more takedowns than you would think just by virtue of like stuffing takedowns and then ending up on top.
Yeah, the only reason why I didn't like it as much is because I think that is going to be Demopoulos' plan, is to try and get the grappling going, because that is probably her path. And Ducote, I think if she just stays on the feet, she's just going to piece her up and win an easy decision here. So I guess you're right, though. She could just fall into some takedowns.
Dakota's got really good takedowns
or control times.
So
yeah, but I'm just saying it's her easiest path to victory, I think, is just being on the feet, to be honest with you. So, and in that standpoint, it's right. But you're right. She could just fall into some takedowns. James made a good point, though, in chat. I just want to say JVC's hiding because of the ROM lock. So, you know, that might be the case. He might be hiding because he locked John Rahm in all of his teams and lost all of his money in PGA. But you never know. I mean, it's okay. We always next week for JVC. So, yeah, we can move on from this fight. I think we all see this kind of similar. Ducati by decision would be my pick. I have a feeling that you guys are in the same camp. So let's move to a little more intriguing fight here. And we got Rodriguez versus Alatong Ali. Alatong here, 7,600. Rodriguez, 8,600. I like this fight. I think this fight is a good fight for both guys stylistically. It creates kind of problems because they're both different fighters in the way that Ali likes to kind of hang out, a little pressure, but he's a little more apprehensive about throwing a ton of volume. He's really looking for that 1-2 shot where he tries to put you out. He does have power. His hands are good when he throws. It's just like, even when he's pressuring you, you're like yelling at the TV, dude, throw more, like throw more. But he also has problems with cardio later in rounds. So I think that's one of the reasons why he doesn't throw as much early, is because, you know, the cardio is a little suspect. So he's trying to save himself. Even when he has guys on the rope, like he had, who's the guy he fought last time out? Or no, 2 times ago versus Anliger, where he literally in the first round was beating the shit out of him and had him really afraid up against the cage, and he just wouldn't try and finish the dude. He just like kept throwing ones and just pressuring him, but wouldn't just go into like more combos and stuff like that. That's the frustrating side of him, is he has power, but he doesn't throw as much to try and finish. So you're really hoping for that one punch and the knockdown or the knockout type thing with him. But he has that upside to give it to you at 7,600. And Rodriguez is a really skilled guy that I think, you know, has had some tough times in the UFC, but has the upside. He went from fighting CJ Vergara to a step down against Shannon Ross, who everyone knocks out because has no chin. And then fights Basharat, where he gets subbed early in the first round, and just Basharat kind of exposed the grappling upside, you know, in strength for him a little bit. But now he gets to go back down a little bit to fight someone like Ali, who I think is a good fighter, but I think it's a good step, a little step down from Basharat, but it's not like Shannon Ross. So this is going to be more of a competitive fight to me. And I actually like the dog here. I think Ali can give him problems, countering some of that pressure that he's going to come out with in the speed of Rodriguez. I think Ali can find ways to kind of weather that and then, you know, have a good fight here. And I like him to win. I don't think he gets the finish. I think it might end up being a decision, but Showdown Christine, who do you like here, Ali or Rodriguez?
I like Rodriguez. Sorry.
Don't be
I think
sorry.
that
I mean, get in there. Tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I think Haley he's just like a middling type of fighter for me. He doesn't really do much, especially in the first 2 rounds. He tends to start off really slow, which could be detrimental to him against Rodriguez, who throws with a ton of volume. He does have a weak spot where he can be taken down. He has been subbed before, but he's also very durable. He's faster. He's lighter on his feet. He's bigger, a higher volume of shots. Haley is dangerous, but he's dangerous from what I've seen late in the fight. So if he goes in with that same game plan, I do think Rodriguez has a chance to either rack up minutes on the feet by volume, or to finish him.
I will say just one counterpoint is, you know, Alatong Ali has not, I'm pretty sure, not been finished yet in the UFC. He
That's
is
true.
a very tough dude. So I think it's going to be a little tougher for Rodriguez to finish him, but he does have skills to do it. Dan, what do you see here with this fight? We're split right now. Break the tie.
So I'm actually on Alatong Haley by decision as well. So I'm with you. The low volume is obviously really frustrating. He's got decent power. If, like you said, if you would throw in combinations, like, he could really probably do something. So I don't really understand the hesitancy to strike. But the thing about him is his background is wrestling, but we haven't seen him incorporate that in any of his recent fights. There's some IQ questions because of that, because a lot of times he doesn't take like the path of least resistance. But in this fight in particular, like, you can't count on it. So, I mean, I feel a little weird about the pick, because I'm making the pick saying, like, I want him to wrestle, because I don't think Rodriguez he doesn't have a very good takedown defense. And like, when he's on his back, he seems sort of helpless.
You know why though, Dan? I feel like he relies too much on like his super athletic ability to try like reversals and sweeps. So he's like, it's almost like he's loading up to like make one of those big movements to get out of it or to reverse the position, as opposed to like technically trying to like shimmy back towards the cage, get his back against it, and then get to one knee, and then like slowly work his way up. He's never doing that. He's always trying to like find a big reversal, which if you don't get it and you try one, that takes a lot of energy out. So then he just ends up, if he doesn't get the reversal, laying on his back. In situations.
That's usually a problem for me. I mean, especially DFS wise, it's like when I'm taping a guy or a girl, like if I see that they are happy to kind of like work from their back for too long and drop minutes and drop rounds and just not score, like I don't like that at all. So that's like a major issue for me and Rodriguez. But, you know, on the positive for him, like all the things Christine said, like he's got good volume, power, he's quick. He mixes his strikes and targets well. But it's the grappling and wrestling just doesn't seem to be there. And I think Haley's got a big advantage there, should he choose to use it. You know, not a guarantee by any stretch, but I'm hopeful.
I think the only way he uses it is if he starts to tire out later in the fight, or if he gets hit with like a big shot and it's like a desperation takedown. Because even in that Chad Englinger fight, he didn't shoot takedowns until the last round, or not shoot, but like he didn't go for takedowns until the last round, and he got 2 of them fairly easy, and they were almost like opportunistic type ones. It's not like he was, you know, shooting, and then finally got one because he was tired. It was more just like he caught him and got on him. But even when he got him down, he like didn't really want to do anything. He wanted to like get back up. He like stood back up, and they played the I'm going to kick you while you lay on your back and push your foot into my knee or up kick me, you know. And then the ref, I think it was Herb Dean, just said like, no. All right, get up. Let's go. And so I'm with you. Like, I would like him to wrestle. I know he has the background to do it. I just don't know if he's going to do it until later in the fight. So hopefully he does a little earlier just to mix it up, but we'll see. I like the dog here. Dan's on the dog, and Showdown Christine on the favorite here, Rodriguez, to get it done. Showdown Christine, do you have him by finish or decision?
Decision.
All right. Well, we're all on this decision side. I will say, what do you guys think from an upside standpoint for DFS? Do you think, like, I think that both guys could score well in victories, whether it be a decision or a finish. I think they have the upside to do it. I will say, though, I'm a little more worried about Alatong Ali with his lower volume. If he wins a decision, he's the one I'd be worried about the most.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would say from an upside standpoint. We got, let's see here. I think we have a loser in the optimal for a dog. It's very possible. Very, very possible. Dan, what do you think about that? Like the loser, like how do you go about that for these type of cards?
I don't really think about it. I mean, like I'm always playing some of the, 150ing. I'm always playing a good amount of the really like bad quote unquote dogs. So I'm going to get there without even really thinking about it. The last time I won, I had a loser in it, but I'm not like ever going into a slate thinking about like which dog is going to score the best in a loss. That's not, because they're generally going to score the best in a win too. So it's kind of like the same shit, you know?
And you play a lot of ownership.
I think for his price at 7,600, even if he wins with his low volume, I think it's a little high for him.
He's probably going to need a finish. I think he's live to find the finish though.
Or the takedowns. If he does do the takedowns,
if he wrestles, yeah, which, you know, again, I'm hopeful. That's like where his upside, I think, lies, path of least resistance, etc. But can't really rely on it. I think but yeah, I mean, I think the finish, like round 1, round 2, he could get there because Rodriguez is sort of like, he's a little wild and just kind of like comes at you. So
and I feel like that's a perfect guy for Alatong Ali to like catch. You know what I mean? He's hot. He comes in right into the pressure game, and then he gets a little too wild and gets caught. You know, just because we haven't by this, I do think these guys both have paths to getting finishes. So Yeah, I like this fight for DFS, to be honest with you, but I could see why people would be a little apprehensive about the Ali side for decision. So let's go to another fight where we've got another Rodriguez here. We got Pietro Rodriguez, 8,800 on DraftKings versus Carnelossi, 7,400. And Showdown Christine, I think this was one of the fighters you were talking about that had a little bit of a layoff. I think it was an
Yes.
injury, but I'm not 100% sure. Talk about that real quick with Carnelossi.
Yes, Carnelossi is coming off of a 2-year layoff. One was due to a canceled fight. I'm not really sure what the other year was for. She's extremely fit. She looks like she's she looks like she's juicing. She looks like a beefed up Justin Bieber. And
Dude,
built
she's
like a mini
jacked. Her
fridge.
biceps are huge.
they're bigger
She's
than my
jacked.
head.
Yeah.
She's massive. Extremely fit. She's a black belt. She does have some power, but her takedown defense is horrendous. The layoff is concerning. Piera Rodriguez is also coming off of a 1-year layoff. She's got a high finish rate, solid striker. She mixes in wrestling as well, which is great in this matchup because Carnelossi is not so great on the ground. She doesn't have good takedown defense. So if I was Rodriguez, that would be my path to victory. She's averaging over 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is great for DFS. She's 8,800, a little high, but I think she has slight upside. She's 30% owned, so a little high owned. And yeah, the only issue I have with Rodriguez is she slows down later in rounds and she's a little hittable as well. So Carnelossi late or Rodriguez early or Rodriguez by volume and takedowns and control time in a decision. So I'm going with Rodriguez decision.
All right. Dan, what do you got here? Showdown Christine is on the Rodriguez side by decision. Do you agree with her? And who do you like?
Yeah, I'm on Rodriguez by decision as well. Carnelossi, I'm not super excited about. She's got some big scores like on her box score, but those are sort of she's like a bit of a paper tiger in that way. Like her one really high scoring performance is against Liang Na, which like happy trails, goodbye. We know the story with her. You know, she's gonna gas and get finished eventually. And then you've got what she fought Estela Nunes, who is just awful. And like we said, the takedown defense, not there. It's sort of like a stoppable force meets a movable object here in the grappling exchanges because Rodriguez can't seem to hold anybody down and Carnelossi can't seem to ever get up. So that's going to be kind of interesting. If she can manage to get to her feet, I think Rodriguez is going to have no problem dumping her right back down. And I think there's good potential here for Rodriguez to just rack up takedowns and control time. She doesn't really have much power. Let me see. I don't really think she's too much. She's not like much of a submission threat, not too dangerous down there, if I'm thinking of the right person. Yeah, she has no wins by submission. So I could see, I mean, I definitely think this is going to decision, but
Who has no wins by submission? Rodriguez or Carnelossi?
Yeah, zero win. I don't think either of them actually. Rodriguez
Carnelossi has one, I thought, against Nunes, but could be wrong.
Yeah, that was a rear naked choke against Nunes. She actually has 2. I think the one is older. Anyway, I think what it's really going to come down to is like, can Carnelossi get up? She can't stop the takedown. Can she get up from the takedown?
I'm sorry, Carnelossi has 2 submissions. Rodriguez
right. Yeah.
5 KOs, 4 decisions.
Yeah, I think I'm just not a fan of Carnelossi's game. The layoff is concerning. I think you want to go with Rodriguez here for upside and DFS for sure. You said 30% owned. I've got her at 24. Like I'm happy to come in at or over there because I think the range that she's in, she's going to be like a pretty good contrarian target. I like Rodriguez quite a bit. I think, man, you're kind of depending on Carnelossi being able to get up from some of these takedowns. Because, like I said, stoppable force meets a movable object. Who's worse?
So I'll give the contrarian take here, but I actually like Carnelossi, and I think the most worrisome point of her side for me is just the long layoff. Like, you know what I mean? How does she look coming back from the long layoff? But you guys are talking about the takedowns, and I will say, when you look at 8% takedown defense, that's never good. That doesn't. I'm not saying that she's a world beater, but I do think it's a little inflated based off of her last opponent, which the last time she was in the cage, she was fighting Lupi Godinez, and Lupi looked amazing in that fight. If you guys remember that fight, I think she was 8 for 8 for takedowns. She just absolutely destroyed her. But I don't hold that against her because I think Lupi is really, really good. So I do not hold that against her. And do I think Pierre Rodriguez is Lupi? No way. And so I think Carnelossi is a little more live than you guys are. I think she actually is a little bit of the better fighter in a way. Like, I do not like Pieta's striking. I do think her upside is in the takedowns. If she can hold her down too, which I'm not sure that she can hold her down, to be honest with you. And I know it's more just like brute force and everything like that. But Carnelossi is really, really strong. So I'm going to go with the dog here. I think the dog has upside. And I'm just not a huge fan of Rodriguez winging punches like she does, just running in there, winging punches. And I think, she could get caught in some of the striking stuff, especially if the takedowns slow down after round one. So I could see this as a spot where round one, fresh, she gets some takedowns, goes to her. And then round 2 and 3, she starts to slow down. And Carnelossi, that's where she gets it up. And I think this is a decision fight either way. So I like her here as the dog. Got to take some dogs on this card. So this is not the best card. Even the favorites that are the favorites, some of these fighters are not really that good. I mean, Rodriguez literally against Jillian Roberts, I was screaming, why are you taking Jillian Roberts? Why are you shooting takedowns? So the IQ is another thing that I worry about with Rodriguez. I think her IQ is not really there. I think she's got a lower IQ. And, if she's doing that against Roberts, who's got a shitload of submissions, and we all know her grappling game is very, very good. I don't trust a girl like that. So I'm going to go with Carnelossi here to get the job done by decision. Let's move on, though, to another fight here. We got Warlley Alves, 7,200 versus Abus Magomedov. Magomedov is back here. And you can make the case that the UFC did not do him any favors after his first fight against Stoltzfus, where he goes from that fight where he finished in the first round to Sean Strickland and Kaio. I think that is a very tough thing for any fighter. So now he gets to take a little step down, right, to someone like Warlley Alves. And I think it's a better spot for him. And we're going to actually see if he's like really good, which I think he's really talented. I just don't like the way he like quit against Sean Strickland and then like the Kaio fight where I felt like they were just staring at each other for long periods of time. And I really don't like it. Like, I don't trust a guy like that. And so, Dan, it makes me really hard to like pay $9K for him, bet on him in DFS, even though I think skills wise, he is by far the more skillful fighter in this matchup to Warlley Alves. I just don't know if I can trust him, honestly, at 9K, even with all that together here. Do you agree with me that you're a little worried about Abus at 9K, or do you think he starches Warlley Alves?
I think, the concerns are valid, but both of these guys are gassers is what it really comes down to. If Abus was fighting somebody else, I might be more worried, but Alves, no durability, no cardio. I think if Abus can come out like aggressive, a little more aggressive than he has in the past, because he has a tendency to be a little too patient. But I think he's super. I mean, the odds imply this as well. He's super, super live for an early finish. Alves just got knocked out by Jordan Levitt, of all people, in the first round. And that is just like, I'm having a real hard time getting past that. And, like you said, like, I don't first of all, who is managing Magomedov? Like, because he needs new management to get him like better fights, because they didn't do him any favors, like you said. The concerns are warranted, but this is like a major step down in competition. And I mean, the ownership is going to be there, but probably not as much as it should be for a guy who's got this much like first round upside. I think the concerns are a little overblown, but slightly overblown, just considering his level of competition he's faced so far.
The one thing I will say, I think you're thinking of Victor Martinez, which is the next fight, the one who got knocked out by Jordan Levitt. But Warlley Alves has been knocked out. I'm pretty sure his last fight
got knocked out by Liskarov his last time.
Yeah, and I think he's honestly, I think Liskarov is a beast. So. Or Aliskerov, I think is how I could be wrong, but I think it's Aliskerov. Could be wrong. I think he's a beast, honestly, Dan. So I'm not holding that against him too much here with that knockout. But Christine, what do you think here with the Alves and Magomedov fight? Do you hold my concerns for Magomedov, or do you think he just runs through someone like Warlley Alves, who has been knocked out in 2 of his last 3 fights?
I think so. I think this is a good bounce back spot for Magomedov, or a boost, however you will. I'll call him a boost. He lost to Strickland, where that aged pretty well, considering Strickland knocked out, was it Izzy? Yeah. He's a quick finisher. He hasn't really won anything outside of the first round, which is questionable because, as we know, we like to take a shot on a lot of these first round finishers. And recently they haven't been doing right by us. And he's a decent wrestler. He packs power into striking. He's a finisher, but his conditioning, like Dan said, is questionable. But same thing with Alves. His conditioning is questionable. He has a weak chin. He doesn't really show anything. I feel like the UFC might have been doing this as a layup for a boost, maybe. And
hoping it's a layup, Christine. Hoping it's a layup.
I'm hoping, yeah.
Yeah.
All
no,
you have to do is make the fight.
I mean the UFC, because I don't think the UFC wants like Warlley Alves. Like I think Warlley Alves is kind of like, for the UFC, almost like on his way out, and they're hoping that Abus is, can travel back up towards where they expect them skill wise to
yeah,
go.
exactly. Like he's lost the last couple of fights, 3 by knockout. He hasn't really shown anything. He's not spectacular. You know how Dana likes flashy fighters. He's just kind of like a middling type of guy. He's low volume. He's not really a finisher. Conditioning is suspect. So I'm pretty low on Alves, but there is a chance that a boost outside of the first round gasses out and Alves somehow pulls something off. But my pick is a boost by knockout.
So we got a few things here in chat. First of all, Lemons 50. Have my babies, Dan? Well, okay. So. There you go. There's your answer. I thought that was kind of funny though. So we have that, and then Alves up a weight class as well. Second fight at middleweight.
Yeah, he was not. He looked pretty out of shape in his first fight up at middleweight. So it's it makes you question, like, how hard is this guy really training up a weight class?
I will say the one thing that Christine said too, which I very much agree with, is we say like both these guys have a little bit like the cardio suspect, could gas out. If Abus does what Dan says and comes out a little more aggressive in round 1, but doesn't get the finish, yeah, he could definitely gas out. And again, when you say he lost to Sean Strickland, I mean, he turtled up and quit. Like he just got overwhelmed by Sean Strickland to the point where he just said, nope, no more. And, that was it. So I wouldn't be shocked if Warlley Alves is more live in the second and third round if Abus comes out a little more aggressive. So maybe the lean here is like, if you like a boost, maybe it's an early finish, Dan, like you said, where he comes out aggressive and gets it early, first or second round finish. And Warley Alves, maybe it's later, honestly, because I think it's that way too. I think either Alves comes out and gets finished in the first round, and the UFC's like, okay, this is the guy we thought Abus was when we gave him Sean Strickland after one fight, and then Kaio the next fight. He's that guy. And if not, it could go the worst way for him if he doesn't get that finish. And so, I think this is closer. I like betting the dog here with the dog money because I just don't trust Abus. I just refuse to do that after the fights I've watched with him. But maybe he'll surprise us. Christine versus Dan, JSU special guest referee. Who says no? I mean,
I say no. Christine kicked my ass.
I was about to say Dan, and then Dan just came out and was like, I say no. And I'm like, yeah, I say no for Dan. I think he'd get his ass whipped too. All right, let's go to the next
my specialty in kickboxing class is spinning elbow. Outside of that, I suck.
Oh, Dan, you're screwed, bro. You're absolutely screwed.
In a kickboxing class? I don't do that shit.
I'm not good. I accidentally caught my instructor once, so that was great.
She said my specialty is a spinning elbow. Like, yo, if someone says their specialty is a spinning elbow, you're fucked, bro.
It's like, literally the only thing I'm good at.
Yeah, and that elbow is going to come right on the outside of your friggin' ear or something like that and just drop you.
No, thank you.
All right, let's go to the next fight here. We got Vidal against Gatto. Vidal 6,800 on DraftKings, Gatto 9,400. And again, there's going to be some fights where I don't agree with the line and how big it is and how wide it is. And then there's some fights where I'm like, they should be big enough, favorites here. And that line should be pretty big. I think this is definitely one of those fights where Gatto deserves to be a really big favorite. I do not like Vidal. She's got some power, but like her grappling, her defensive grappling is very, very bad in my opinion. And that fight against Rendon, where I thought she was the better fighter in that fight, like skill wise, but she just got outdogged. I mean, like literally you watch that fight. It was just, she got outdogged by Rendon, taken down. And I think Gatto just absolutely owns her with the grappling. Gatto's grappling is really good. I think it's going to be too much for Vidal. And I think she could even get a finish here. Now, how well does that score for Melissa Gatto, who, takedowns are just, they're nothing like special. But if she does make this a grappling match, I think she has a massive advantage there. And I think she could find a finish. Again, I just don't know if it's a lower volume output of striking, which I think it could be for her. And it's more grappling and maybe like a second round finish. And there's not a ton of takedowns. Maybe 9,400, she's got to either finish her really fast or load up on a bunch of takedowns here. Maybe she can get a bunch of takedowns. I mean, Rendon just pretty much, did whatever she wanted with that, outdogging her. So maybe she can, but I do like her as the side here. And I am going to bet her inside the distance, maybe by submission too. I think she could find a sub here, but Dan, what do you see here versus Gatto and Vidal?
Yeah, I mean, Vidal is she's not good. Her one finish victory in the UFC was against Ramon Pasquala, who also not good, doesn't belong in the UFC. I mean, it was a fun knee, but doesn't belong in the UFC. Gatto, like you said, has pretty much got her everywhere. She's got some decent power too. So I think she can low key knock her out as well. But your most likely path is like a submission, I think. Like the volume's not great, but I just think she's so many levels above her everywhere, but especially the grappling. Actually, I have this by decision for some reason on my sheet. So
you puss, change that right now. You just said you just went literally to Christine. He went, oh, and she's got power and could knock him out. So he's like, yeah, she could finish him either way pretty much. And then he goes, oh, wait, I have this by decision. Fix that right now, Dan. Get in there and fix that thing. I just looked at the odds too. Melissa Gatto plus 200 by submission, plus 500 by KO, TKO. Which
Yeah.
if you think she's got the KO upside and has a chance, that number is kind of nice. If you do think she has a chance to get the finish that way, but
9,400 is like a really steep price tag for her. You know, second round finish might not get you there. Like an early second round finish is going to be like pretty shaky, but you know, we've already talked about it. Look at the top end. Like you've got to spend the money somewhere. And you know, someone who's implied to win in the first round a quarter of the time coming in sub 20% owned, like I'm happy to get over on that. I just think the talent gap is so wide. I am going to change my pick to inside the distance.
yeah, and inside the distance plus 130 for Melissa Gatto. If you want to bet that, it is plus 130 here. Don't hate that, or just take your chances with, you know, the better odds with the sub or the KO if you want to go there. But the less risky side would just be that.
Gatto is actually I haven't run anything yet, but Gatto is actually like with my ranking formula, she's my highest ranked fighter. And that
what do you have her ownership wise, Dan?
I have her 18% at the moment. I could see her coming in.
Yeah.
Usually I would say I could see her coming in lower than that, but it's like we have 4 women's fights on this card. So people you have to play them regardless of how much people won't want to. Like you're gonna have to get there.
Yeah, and I didn't like the other two because, like you said, we have 4 women's fights. 2 of the other women's fights we already broke down, and they're more expensive, right? They're bigger lines, bigger favorites, obviously, kind of like Gatto. I think Gatto's the biggest, but in that range, 9,200 for Ducati. Rodriguez is 8,800, and Gatto is 9,400. And I like Gatto more than the other 2 girls. So I'm with you. I'm probably going to be I don't want to say way, but I'm definitely going to be over that 18. I'll probably be double-ish the field on Melissa Gatto if she's going to be 18% owned.
Yeah, I have her at 18 as well.
Yeah. So what are you doing, Christine? Are you higher on her than the other 2 women that I just brought up, kind of in a similar range?
I think Vidal is not great, but I'm concerned about Loopy's price tag. I get your strategy where she's so overpriced. She's going to come in lower owned and she could potentially get there, but I think she has to get that submission early in order for her to really pay off that price tag, because it compared to other fighters on the card, or multiple takedowns in that. Tamira's she's physically bigger. She's probably stronger, but she's not a great fighter. She does have that judo style, so she's really explosive. The only thing I could see for her to win would be to like get Gatto with something crazy and unexpected. I do think Gatto is just all around the better fighter here, and she can knock her out. She can sub her. The only thing that I'm concerned about is her price tag. And if she were to get the sub, is it in the early rounds? If it's in the 3rd round, like what did she do before then? How much output did she have in order for her to meet her value at 9,400? Other than that, I think she should win handedly. I'm right there with you with the sub prop at plus 200. I think that's a great bet. Or ITD, it might be safer because she can definitely get a finish by knockout as well. The only thing is her price tag, but I do think she's gonna win.
I gotta just say right now, I gotta get my co-hosts when they literally tell me, you know, the butts and why the favorite, like, or the dog, you know, she has this and she has that, but then they go on to tell me how she can knock her out or she can submit her. Like, think about when you say to someone like, I see every path to her getting a finish. Like, I could see her getting a finish this way and I can see her getting a finish that way. Like, if you believe that, then you should be very, very confident in someone like her outside of what Christine was referring to, which was from a DFS perspective at 9,400. Can she cover the price tag was more Christine Cerns. But man, you guys got to give me a little more confidence when you tell me that. I went in there going like, yeah, Gatto, I think she gets a sub. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's like a knockout, but I think she does have the massive grappling advantage and gets the sub. And you guys go in there like, but this, but that. But then she can knock her out and submit her. So, like, whatever. So, what's going to happen? She's going to knock her down and then submit her. That's what's going to happen here based off of what we just talked about. So,
that would be fantastic.
I'm trying to get you guys going here a little bit. You gotta give me a little more when we talk about these favorites, because there's a lot big ones, and we gotta rank them too. So you gotta talk up the ones you like. I like Gatto here, even though there are DFS concerns with the price tag. I think at 18%, it's not a bad stud or high price fighter to get over on here with upside.
Yeah, she's a potential leverage play. Like if she scores big at 18%, you got it.
Yeah, I mean she is. I did say she is my highest ranked. Just like from
I think you were surprised by that too, Dan. Were you surprised by that when you looked at the numbers?
Slightly, but I mean, considering she's got like the 5th best ITD number on the card. Like 2 of the people who have better numbers than her are priced above her. There's just so many question marks on this card that I'm not really afraid of her price tag the more I think about it.
And your thing, I bet it's highly based off of ownership, a lot of it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Because I know ownership factors in a ton with your stuff. So all right, let's go to the next fight here. We got another massive favorite. We got Sai, we got Tokos. Sai 9,600, Tokos 6,600 here. This is a big spot on the card. I think Sai is minus 110 to get a KO. Is this reminiscent of last week's fight where someone else was like, I think he was actually minus like 130 to get a knockout here and ended up losing a decision of all things. So Dan, is this giving you some flashbacks of last week's big bust at over 9K, or is Sai a little different?
This definitely has this like similar vibes, but I think Sai is different in that he actually has grappling and wrestling, which he uses it heavily. Like he wants to take the fight down to the mat. He's got some powerful striking, but it's not like I actually didn't get to see too much of his striking because he most of his like previous fights are in KSW, which I tried every which way to find KSW fights, but they just are not forthcoming. I like even tried to sign up. Like I would have paid to watch some of these fucking KSW fights, but
I found like two, maybe 3
find
fights,
highlight clips and shit like that. So I mean, he definitely has some powerful striking, but I didn't get to see a whole lot of it.
I saw what you saw. I saw a lot of grappling. I saw a lot of grappling, a lot of going for takedowns. So he is different, right? He like the other fighter's not going to just overwhelm him on the ground like last week's card where the guy just was a fish when he got down to the ground. Just no one saw him before that. At least we've seen Sai, fight that way.
Yeah, he's certainly more complete, more skilled, especially on the mat. And the thing about KSW as well, like for those who don't know, like KSW is considered one of the like premier promotions in Europe. So like this isn't like a Cage Warrior guy or some other low level regional kind of thing. Like KSW is fairly legit. So his level of competition is obviously higher than a lot of these sort of, Robles to Spain type guys. His opponent, Tokos, aside from the price, which he's free, 6,600. I'd say he, his film does not look good, but he is a BJJ black belt. Chokes seem to be his specialty. So you can see a world where like Sai goes in like shooting for a takedown recklessly and just gets caught up in a choke and then it's fucking lights out. Like that can absolutely happen. I think outside of that though, Sai's got him covered pretty much everywhere. Sai does he rates out really well for me despite his ownership, which makes me take another look. But it's kind of a similar spot to Rumbetsky from last week, which despite, usually just from a process standpoint, I'm trying to fade guys who are like mega expensive primary wrestlers who are going to be catching a lot of ownership. So, just to go cycle back to Gatto, like I like the Gatto play more than I like the Sai play. I think there's quite a bit of downside with Sai, but there's also like immense upside. He has by far the best finish odds on the card. Nolan is slightly behind him, but I think that line's a little high, possibly.
And we've seen him go. Well, at least I've seen him go. 3 rounds. I've seen him go to decision. It's a little bit. I don't worry as much about that. He does have takedown upside too, right, Dan? So in a decision, he could rack up takedowns, but
Absolutely.
he is 9,600, and I agree with you. It is a little worrisome at that price tag, but finishing wise, he does have the best odds, and I think that's what we probably see, but you never know. I like your take too about Tacos and the front chokes, and that's how his path would probably be. But Christine, what are you seeing here with this fight? Is it just easy one-sided fight, or do you think the dog has a shot?
I actually like both sides of this fight. I like the inside the distance line. I think they're both finishers. I think that there's upside in both of them because they're both grapplers. I have Sai, obviously in the regional scene because they're both debuting, as having over 3 takedowns landed per 15 minutes and Tukos 2.9 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. So they both have that grappling, but also when you have 2 grapplers, they kind of like nullify each other. And it could just be like a scrambling match, or maybe one can't maintain top control and then you're kind of like, what's happening here? I think the short notice is definitely concerning for Tukos, but he's 10-3, 3-fight win streak. He's a strong grappler. So I think he's a live dog at 6,600. Why not? And I think for Sai, well, he missed weight, 2.5 pounds. He is a strong finisher. He's 9-0 pre-UFC, 7 of those wins inside the distance. So both of them are very strong finishers. He's a decent striking, but heavy into grappling. His cage IQ isn't where it should be, but I think he's a little bit green still. And I'm going on both sides of this fight. I'll probably do like 70-30 Sai Tokos, but I'm definitely high on this fight.
So you're like all in for DFS on this fight pretty much?
Yeah, I think that I think there's going to be a finish. And if there's not a finish, I do think that there will be a lot of takedowns and control time. It's just a matter of who it is. So I think Togo's at his price, and for that potential upside, I'm willing to take a chance on that. Obviously, if you're playing like 1 to 3 lineups, I agree with Dan. Like I would go with like Gato or someone else, because the unknown here is a little concerning. But I like it.
Yeah, I like being, on both sides for DFS, because I do think there's potential upside for both sides here. My question's more just going to be like Sai or Nolan, who do I like more when we get to that next fight? But I'm going to have some Tokos too, because at 6,600, he could definitely find his way somehow if he got a finish, or the grappling upside if he somehow was the one winning those exchanges and getting them to the ground. But Sai definitely seems like a good DFS play. Let's go to the next fight here. We've got Tom Nolan versus Martinez. Martinez 6,700, Nolan 9,500. Nolan last time out, I think it was his first time in the UFC. He was a very big favorite, I'm pretty sure, right? Big favorite to Nicholas Mata. And I remember breaking this fight down because it was back in, I think, January or something like that. And I remember I was on the Mata side, and I remember saying why. And it's pretty much just like the way Tom Nolan fights. Like at some point, he's going to get checked and chinned because he just goes. He like goes for broke. And when you get in the pocket with some of these guys like Nicholas Mata, who I've seen fight in a war in the pocket. Like, you're going to get clipped, and that's what happened. So, I mean, I think this is a different fight. I think Martinez is not as dangerous as someone like Mata. And it's clear when you see his first fight, he got knocked out. And this is what Dan was referring to a little earlier, by Jordan Levitt of all people. When that happens, I'm like, okay, the UFC just gave Tom Nolan. Christine said layup a few fights ago. This is the layup right here, right? This is okay. You know your fighting style. We like your fighting style because you go for broke. Let's give you someone who just got knocked out by Jordan Levitt, and let's see how you do. So I do think the UFC is giving this guy a little bit of a better spot here against someone like Victor Martinez, where he's not going to be as afraid to just continue his style. I don't think he's going to change that. I think he's going to go right in. And this is my thing with Sai is I think I like Nolan a little bit more. I think he's even got upside for like a super early finish where we see the bonus. So I really like that. I'm going to lean that side here for my DFS, and I think I'm going to be really high. Him and Gatto will probably be my two highest 9K fighters on the card here. Dan, do you agree with me? Do you think that you're going to be super heavy on Tom Nolan, or are you going to be more like under or at the field?
Well, it's going to be hard to. Oh no, wait, I had these flipped. I'm going to be over. He's projecting to be same ownership as Sai. I like him a bit more than Sai. To be like, yeah, getting knocked out by Jordan Levitt is just like a non-starter for me, man. And like they were clinch knees, so it's not like he got punched out, which would be so much fucking worse. But like he allowed himself to get like clinched up and kneed in the face like 3 or 4 consecutive times, and just absolutely crumpled by Jordan Levitt. I cannot like stress that enough. How bad that is.
I was going to say, don't you dare go make excuses for this guy. Like, don't you dare do it.
His knees are harder than his fists, but still, my God. And then, his Contender Series fight, it's always like a red flag for me when I'm about to watch someone's Contender Series performance and it says decision, because I'm like, how the fuck, like they don't give out contracts for decisions. And then you see the striking numbers and you're like, oh, this guy puts up volume. And then you watch the fight and his opponent breaks his arm like halfway through the fight. So he's just kind of like, he's just punching him up and not finishing him. That's like another big red flag to me, is like you have an opponent who is like, they've got a broken limb and you can't fucking finish them. That's like that's not great. Yeah, I don't like Martinez at all. I will say he ranks better for me than pretty much any of these options at the bottom. And that's because of what you mentioned, probably like his ITD, 17%, not great, but his knockout number for his price is actually probably the best on the slate. And it's not because of anything he does. It's just because Nolan, leaves himself out there to be hit because of what you said, his style. So if you're playing Martinez, you're fully playing him because you think Nolan's going to get caught. It's not really anything he does. It's more what his opponent does.
Yeah, it's the fighting style. It's the fighting style, right? Like that fighting style, you're going to have fights where you knock people out early, and you're going to have fights where you get knocked out early. And even if you didn't like Nicholas Mata, or you think Mata's bad, that's going to happen sometimes. And then they're going to give him fights like this where, I don't think that happens here. But Showdown Christine, what are you doing with Tom Nolan? And can you play Victor Martinez at 6,700? Do you just think he's a fade?
I think you can play Martinez. I think he's at a good price. There's definitely a chance for him to pull something off, but I'm not too high on that narrative. I think Tom Nolan's a better fighter. I think that he's huge for the division. He's long, he's rangy. He throws with a ton of power. It's funny Dan mentioned the broken arm thing, because that was like, yeah, this guy sucks. you don't finish someone with a broken arm. It's pretty bad luck. And then Jordan Levitt, of course, that's a horrible look. He's been finished in a majority of his losses, which is even better for Nolan. But for both of them, their average fight time is less than 10 minutes. So, and their inside the distance line is pretty up there. So I think there's definitely going to be a finish here. I'm on the Nolan side. I think Nolan by KO. I also like the prop, fight to start round 3. No. He's pretty high owned. He's a little over 30% Nolan. And for 9,500 and almost certain that he's going to win, I really like the play. And I think Martinez is a decent flyer, but just know that if he loses, you're getting like a 2.
Yeah. Or a literal 0, like if it ends really fast. So
Martinez will not be the loser in the winner. Like that's not happening.
No, definitely not. Nolan by open hand slap KO. I like that. It's possible. When is the UFL DFS live show starting? It's not starting on this channel, but we do have coverage over here at Run Pure Sports. My guy Bruce handing out the UFL winners. If you guys like UFL, come sign up. Get Bruce's winners. He's in the Discord, breaking things down for people, helping them out. We got content up on the site. So if you like UFL, got that as well. Got you covered there. So, all right, let's go to the next fight. I think we're all pretty much in line here. We've got Angela Hill versus Luana Pinheiro. Pinheiro, 7,900 on DraftKings. Hill, 8,300 on DraftKings. And I will say Angela Hill, someone who, for the most part in my DFS, time playing Angela Hill or not playing her, she's fought a lot. It's mainly decisions, right? But she has shown some upside in these decision wins recently. In 2 of her last 3, obviously she lost to Mackenzie Dern in that 5-round fight. But in between that, Gomes and Ducati, she's put up over 100 DraftKings points, and she's shown some takedowns in that Gomes fight. So, which we're not used to seeing, I guess, from her. But I think that is a little bit of an added maybe upside if she does decide to do it. I don't know why she would here. I do think Angela Hill at 8,300, she's okay. I think she's like a safe play. I don't know if the upside is going to continue to be there, unless you think the strikes are just going to be, the takedowns are definitely going to be there, which I'm not sold on. But maybe they will be. And I got her winning. I got her winning by decision. I'm just not a huge fan of Pinheiro. I think Pinheiro after round 1, Angela Hill is just going to put it on her and show that vet, pressure and just keep moving forward, throwing and hitting her. So I like Hill by decision, 8,300 for DraftKings. I'll have some of her just because I do think she can cover that price tag, but this isn't a fight that I'm very high on. Showdown Christine, what do you got here? Hill and Pinheiro.
I like Angela Hill. She's a tried and true gatekeeper. But she is 39 years old. She looked pretty decent in her last fight with was it Gomes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she's experienced, she's battle tested, she has smart fight IQ, she's durable, which is, I think, very important in a matchup like this. Because Pinheiro, she starts off great, she's explosive, but she also uses moves that tend to tire you out. And then she slows down in the later rounds, whereas Angela Hill has the durability. She's been in battles before, and she can probably outlast her and outvolume her, which is, in a decision, which I definitely think this is going to a decision. I think Angela Hill would be the one to, edge out the victory. But, Pinheiro is definitely powerful. She's live early. She can land some big shots. But if she gets into the later rounds, I think Hill will start piecing her up and can probably get the decision there.
Yeah, I like it. And I like your take on, after that first round, Hill, if she weathers that early storm, I think could just absolutely put it on her and pressure her. We got 7s up. says Hill's getting the takedowns. If you think that 100%, then 8,300 I think is a steal because I really like her to win a decision. And if she's getting takedowns, that's an added bonus that, you know, we've seen just recently, but in normal Angela Hill, we haven't seen prior to the last couple fights. So, Dan, what are you seeing here? Do you think Hill has the upside at 8,300 to cover that price tag, or do you like Pinheiro?
I like Hill a lot. I think it's Hill by decision. I think she actually could be live for a finish too because of what Christine mentioned. Pinheiro has a tendency to come out and just try to throw bombs. She's trying to get you out of there, but you know, I think Hill can weather that storm, you know, avoid a lot of those big shots. And the thing is like when you're taking huge swings and not connecting, that takes so much out of you. I was actually shocked to see that Pinheiro was ranked as highly as she was. It's like pretty surprising to me because there isn't really too much that I like about her game. The argument for her is obviously she does like come out and try to throw with power. Problem is Angela Hill has never been finished and she's been fighting for a long, long time. And like you guys said, like despite the fact that she is older and is like has fought a ton and is a vet, she's still adding things to her game. Like the wrestling and grappling is like a fairly new addition and seems to be improving every time out. Yeah, Pinheiro, I mean, her last time out, absolute ass kicking. She got just dismantled by Amanda Hebus. The time before that, she wins a split decision over Michelle Waterson Gomez. I thought she lost that fight pretty handedly. And I think if you look around the media scorecards, pretty much everybody else is on that page as well. So look, kind of a little fraudulent, possibly. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Pinheiro at all. I think Hill's got her covered pretty well. And I think she's got really good upside. 20% ownership. I would like to have her a little lower, but like honestly, at that price with I think the takedown upside and just the volume that she throws, I think she's a really solid play at 8,300.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, 20% I don't think is that bad. If you think that's around where it comes in at 8,300 in a fight that we think I mean, I really like her to win. It's just, and Dan, if you think she finishes, I mean, she's plus 750 to knock her out. Like that's a, you know, a nice number if you think she could get a finish.
I think she's live to melt her. Like,
yeah,
round
like
3.
like with volume, right? She's not gonna like one punch her,
no.
But a volume stoppage, maybe.
I think she could definitely get on top of her and just force the, you know, she's
force
not
the ref to step in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's minus 105 by decision. Like the likelihood is she probably wins by decision, but she could.
The only thing with
her.
Angela Hill and getting the takedowns is that Pinheiro is very strong. And I think she might give her a little trouble with keeping her down. That's the only thing that, just to play devil's advocate, I agree with you guys, by the way.
I like that even more,
it could be round 1, you know, maybe there's no takedowns, but like round 2 or 3 when Pinheiro gets a little tired, maybe after all the big movements, like you said, what she's throwing out in round 1, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I can definitely see it playing out that way.
Yeah, then Angela Hill maybe starts to throw those in there, but yeah, we all like Hill, 8,300. Think she wins a decision. I really like that bet. And I'm going to probably put a good chunk on it. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got Yanez versus Salvador. Salvador, 6,900. Yanez, I think is how you pronounce it actually, but I'm not sure. 9,300 on DraftKings here. His last 2 fights, Yanez, 2 finishes. He got finished twice, once by Jonathan Martinez, and that was due to leg kicks, which we all know Jonathan Martinez has nasty friggin' leg kicks. So I don't like downgrade you for that, honestly, against someone like him. And then the Rob Font, just overwhelming beat down. Rob Font took some, but that was one fight too. I remember I loved Rob Font. I was pretty high on him. But I'm a big Rob Font guy. Is this a get right for someone like Yanez against Salvador, Dan, or do you think that you know, Salvador has some upside to win?
100%. UFC is throwing Yanez a bone here. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much I like about Salvador at all. He seems like a huge dumbass, to be perfectly honest. Like, he's slow, he's constantly getting outstruck, he fucks around too much. His wrestling is bad. And on the other side, Yanez, he's pretty one-dimensional. He really doesn't have any wrestling, any grappling. He's just like a one-dimensional boxer, but the boxing is like very slick. His hands are very fast. I don't think Salvador has anything for him on the feet, and I just don't, he doesn't have takedowns. He doesn't have wrestling. The UFC is fully feeding Salvador de Yanez to like give him a win. Because, going from fighting Davy Grant is good, Tony Kelly, but you go from that to fighting Rob Font and Jonathan Martinez, who we just watched, fight Jose Aldo. Like that's a really tough jump up in competition. This is a massive step down. 9,300 is like not super prohibitive on this slate, but I gotta I like Nolan more. I like Gato slightly more just because, just these guys who only box, these like one-dimensional guys, it's so tough because you need finishes, you need knockdowns. You're not getting anything from takedowns or anything from grappling. He still rates out really well. I'm going to probably be around the field on him, if not a little higher. If I'm higher, it's because I do not like Salvador at all.
Yeah, I think the one thing for Salvador is he is tough. I'll give him he's a little tough. So could he withstand? I do think he gets beaten down, but like there's a difference, right? Like, is he getting knocked down multiple times and getting back up and then getting finished later? Or is Yanez just the boxing 1, 2, 3 combos in and out and just killing him with his hands? I think that's probably what happens. How does that score? Does he get the finish? I think he could, but I just have Nolan and Sai and Gatto ahead of him for DFS. I do like him to win this fight, though. I could see it going all 3 rounds, though, and him just, it's like not even close for all 3 rounds, but Salvador just kind of toughing out a 3-round decision loss. Showdown Christine, do you think that's possible? Or do you see the finish here?
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think this is a perfect spot for Yanez. I think the matchup is great for him. I think this is another layup on this card where his record is not as good as he is of a fighter. I think Salvador. So the only path I could see for Salvador to win this, he's an unorthodox striker, right? So he throws wild, and his style is very different. He's kind of like my guy Yuri, where you don't know. He doesn't fight in like the textbook way of fighting, so he's a little wild in that sense, and he can maybe catch Yanez with something crazy, but I don't think he'll be able to outpace him, outvolume him. I think this is exactly what Yanez wants: boxing, kickboxing. He's a finisher, and Yanez is. I think at 9,300 he's okay. I do think he needs the finish, and I think that if this becomes just a back and forth kickboxing match, that he may not get there at 9,300. I agree with you. I like Gato and Nolan a little bit better than him, just because Salvador can take him into later rounds, and then at that point, like, you absolutely need to finish. You need a lot of volume, which Yanez can do. And I agree with you. I like Yanez by knockout. It's just a matter of in the 9,000 range, is he your guy?
Yeah, and Matt asks, isn't Nolan a similar play? I think Yanez, after getting finished twice, I think there's going to be a little bit more of a feeling out for him. I don't think he's going to try and just run right through Salvador, who, again, has lost 2 decisions. But, again, he hasn't been finished, right, in those losses in the UFC. I think Yanez can pick him apart. I think he can volume him up. But to me, Nolan, I think, is a little more upside to get that like early bonus finish that quicker knockout. So I agree with you that both guys' upside is the knockout, and Yanez might have the volume upside from Nolan if this goes, like if they both fights went all three. But I just think Nolan has probably finishes a little quicker in like that upside scenario where we could get the bonus. I think after 2 fights losing in a row, he's going to be a little more, measured and slick with his in and out strategy and not just try and run through Salvador. Dan, would you agree with me here on that point, or do you think they are like the same exact thing?
They are similar, but the one thing I will say is like Tom Nolan has at least shown some grappling in his fights. Like, granted, is eternal MMA, so not the highest level, but like we have actually seen him grapple in a fight, whereas Yanez is just straight up boxing. So
yeah,
also
Salvador does fight with his hands down though. So like this is like it is a perfect spot for him to just absolutely kill him.
Yeah. Despite that, he's only got 2 losses, but he's only been finished twice. And it looks like, he's only been knocked out twice. One was from Rafael Fijo, 2019, ground and pound. I think Martinez is like quite a bit more fragile. I think that's like also, you touched on it. Nolan has, higher probability of getting that quick win bonus. And I think Martinez is just, he's slower, he's more fragile.
It's more due to the opponent. It's more due to the opponent they're facing, I think. So, yeah. All right.
And the other thing too, I think a lot of fighters that are coming off of KO losses tend to be a little more apprehensive than they were prior to getting knocked out. Like they might have that apprehension in throwing their strikes because they've just been knocked out, and Yanez is coming off of back-to-back knockouts, so he might not be as confident in himself, and he might be more reserved in his output, just a little.
Yanez with a loss, I think he certainly has more. He has more to lose, and that might make him come out a little more tentative.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next fight here. We've got my guy, Themba Gorimbo. That's the Rocks guy right there. 8,400 for Gorimbo against Brahima. I'm pretty sure he hasn't fought in a little while. This is another guy Christine referred to earlier in the show that's coming off a little bit of a layoff, hasn't fought in the UFC in a couple of years, but 7,800. And I think this fight is going to be a grappling match. I think it's going to be, I don't think that's Themba's best, easiest path to victory. I think he's got, the advantage in the striking, and I think he should keep it on the feet. I just don't think it plays out on the feet. I think it plays out on the ground. And in that scenario, Brahima is a very, very skilled grappler and has an advantage, in my opinion, in the grappling. So I'm going to go with the dog here, slight dog. If it plays out on the feet, though, then I do think Gorimbo wins in that scenario. So it just kind of depends on where this fight plays out. Christine, where do you see this fight playing out, and who do you have winning?
I have Brahimaj as my dog pick of the week, so I agree with you. And I'm not really concerned about the 2-year layoff. He pulled out of both fights. One of them maybe because he didn't think he was going to win, which I think is smart. One of them was due to, I think, an injury. We know he can grapple. That's going to be his best path to victory on the mat. He has decent striking. He's durable. And Gorimbo will have the strength advantage, but I think that he has like low cage IQ sometimes, and he tends to give up top control, and so he'll get the takedown, but then his opponent will actually get the control time. So that's a big hole in this game. And then I think Brahimaj would go in and exploit that and get the win. So by submission.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure too. Every single one, if I remember correctly, every single one of his wins are by submission. So this dude is when I say very, very good grappler, in all 10 of his wins,
10
submissions by submissions. He has 10 wins and 10 submissions. And then his losses, I think he got knocked out once, and the other one were decision losses. But yeah, this guy has the upside. Brahimaj sub plus 170 or 170. I like it because if you like him to win, I think he's winning by submission. Honestly, I don't even know if he would win a decision. To be honest with you, I think a decision that would be tougher for him. Unless he's just winning all of the grappling, if the fight played out entirely on the ground. And if that happens, then I feel like the odds are pretty good he's finding a sub in that scenario. So, yeah, I like the sub. I like that number, and I'll probably play that. Dan, do you agree with us here? Are you on the Brahimaj side, or do you like Mr. Grimbo?
Right
like
answers
Grimbo.
only.
Yeah. Right answers only, Dan. Don't fuck it up.
I'm on Garimbo.
Oh, you fucked it up. Damn it.
That's
it. Slate's canceled, people.
We're done.
Canceled.
I just think he's straight up more talented, man. Ramiz, I mean, you look at his, like, he's got a lot of wins by rear naked choke against some of the worst fucking guys you've ever seen in your life. I was not particularly impressed. And he also just has really, really bad cardio. Demba, we've seen him. You know, he did gas at the end of that Takashi Sato fight, and almost got finished himself. But that was 2 fights ago. Last time out, we saw him just send Pete Rodriguez to the hospital, which hilarious. Yeah, I think Demba is just the better fighter. He's got more resources around him as well. You know, like you said, it's like The Rock's boy. He's got, I think The Rock like bought him a house. So he's got everything he needs at his disposal to succeed. And then DFS wise, I mean, it's priced well for sure. And this is a spot where Ramiz is actually coming in higher owned than Themba slightly. And I think you're seeing that just because a lot of people are going to be attacking the mid range. Like the lower end is abysmal. The top end is very sketchy as well. So you're getting a lot of ownership on this fight. And, you know, just from a like I said, I haven't built yet, but just from like a general process standpoint, like, I guess they're pretty equally owned.
And too, Dan, the Hill Pinheiro fight is like a similar price range gap for these 2 fights. And I feel like more people will want to be on this fight than that fight from a DFS like upside perspective. I feel like this fight's going to get more ownership.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As a whole.
This fight is like 70%. Well, actually, it's actually, well, yeah. It's gonna be like double the ownership for this fight. But you know, we mentioned it before. Sometimes when you have like 2 grapplers going against each other, they just sort of like neutralize each other. Yeah, I just think Ramiz's cardio is just so bad, man.
So,
And like,
so do you see hospital? Do you see
see hospital? I see a decision, honestly. I see Themba kind of doing like some lay and pray. My rankings don't love this fight, likely because of the ownership and the ITD numbers not being quite as strong as some of the others. I'm probably going to be coming in pretty low on this fight now that I'm looking at it. It's not comfortable. I was definitely low on Themba last time out, and he absolutely dusted me. So it's not comfortable, but I try to stick somewhat to like what the numbers are telling me. Served me well in the past. So
I don't hate for DFS kind of being lower on this fight and just hoping it is a boring decision. You know,
I mean, Ramiz at 35% owned for a guy that I just don't think is very good at all and has massive holes that are going to be exploited. And like, if you want to go down the narrative route, like, you know, you've got one guy that has the fucking Rock behind him that the UFC is like clearly trying to build up. And you've got another guy who's like just a guy. I think, is he a short? There's so many like replacements on this card. Is he one of them? Or no?
What, short notice?
Yeah. No. Okay. So this was always booked. I was mixing this up with sci-fi. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't like Ramiz, and at 35% owned, that's far too high, in my opinion, for him.
All right. Yeah. I mean, this is a fight I'm probably going to be heavier on the betting side of the fight than the DFS side, just because it's going to be pretty popular for it. But it's going to be a very highly owned fight. So
Yeah, they're cheap.
pick your side. Yeah, definitely. And like I said, Garimba has the upside. I really believe his path should not be grappling, and he literally should stand with this guy and try and make this a standing striking match where I think he could find a finish late when this guy gasses out in the end of the second round or third round if it gets it there. Because when you're so grapple heavy, that takes energy, that gasses you out. And that could easily happen. And then Themba could find like a late finish here. So yeah, pick your side and, see how it goes. We're on opposite sides though. Me and Christine on the Brahimaj side, Dan on the Garimba side. Let's go to the last two fights here on the card. We got Chaos Williams 8,200 against Carlson Harris. Harris 8K on DraftKings. This is another one of those fights, Dan. I assume it's going to be somewhat popular because of those price tags. But tell me the ownership and who you got in this fight.
What are you throwing to me? Sorry.
I did.
I was reading some of the comments.
I thought you were on mute.
Harris inside the distance on this one. I mean, Harris has made like a really good account for himself so far in the UFC. He's like a dangerous submission grappler. His striking leaves a little bit to be desired because he's like pretty low volume, but he's got solid striking defense, which going up against Chaos Williams, I think if he can withstand sort of like the early barrage from Williams, that he will eventually find his way. The fight will eventually find its way down to the mat, and I think Harris has him all day down there. I think he's going to find the back.
Yeah.
He's going to choke him
Yeah,
out.
it's funny. It's funny. Harris's wins, when you look at like his wins and you look at, how he got two of those submission wins in the UFC, like the fight against Jeremiah Wells, which was the most recent one, he was getting absolutely dominated, like 2 rounds of just domination for Jeremiah Wells. He had it locked up. And then all of a sudden, Wells shoots in, gets him against the cage, goes for the takedown. He locks up that anaconda and he put him to sleep. He literally put him to sleep off of Jeremiah Wells trying to get offensive takedowns. And the same thing in the other fight when he won by submission, which was a few fights ago against Aguiar. It was kind of a similar thing. The only difference was he wasn't getting dominated, but Carlson hit him with a shot standing, and then Aguiar started to try and go offensive for a takedown, and then he locked up the same choke, an anaconda choke, and he put him out too. So this dude's like putting people out with these submissions, like arm dangling, like they're out cold type thing. So yeah, he's definitely a dangerous grappler. And if this does find its way down into the grappling exchanges, I definitely think he has an advantage here. I like Harris too. I'm just not a fan of Chaos. Like, I hate those big dudes who they're not really technical. They're striking. For him to win, I do think it needs to be a striking battle for sure. And but I hate those guys. All they do is wing punches and run in, and Harris has a really nice body lock. I think when you got a guy like Chaos who's going to run in, there's opportunities for him, even though Chaos has decent takedown defense, for Harris to kind of level change, lock that body lock, and catch him when he's running in. So I do think this fight finds its way to the ground too. And in that scenario, I got Harris winning. Just not a big fan of Chaos, even his striking. Dude's got power, but I just wish there were more straight punches, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's not just running in, throwing those winging, hooking punches. But Showdown Christine, you're back. We're breaking down the Harris Chaos Williams fight. Me and Dan both on the Harris side. Which side are you on?
Yeah, I think my mic kind of blacked out because I'm on the Chaos Williams side, and it was I can't anymore.
Yeah, it said you got to jump out and jump back in. That should tell you something, Christine. You might have to switch your picks around.
Maybe. No, I mean, I like both sides of it. I I like that Carlson
Don't walk
Harris.
it back now. You're on the Chaos Williams side. Tell us
I
why you're
am.
on the
No,
Chaos side.
I am. But that's not to say Harris is not a live dog, especially in this range, 8,000, 8,200. I think it's worth it to play both sides of this one, especially because Harris can get it done. They both are finishers, and Harris does have a little bit more upside because of the grappling. But I like Chaos Williams. He has the brute strength, number of wins by knockdown. He knocked out Moreno, who he's like the ultimate gatekeeper. Al Hassan, Semmelsberger. He's got decent takedown defense, and he's durable. So Harris is going to be a tough opponent for sure, but I like the explosiveness of Williams, and I like, if he hits you on the button, you're going down. So I'll take that for 8,200. But I don't hate Harris for $200 less to play both sides of this fight. I think is smart.
Yeah, Dan, plus 450 by submission for Carlson Harris. I think
Well,
that's a
sign me up.
I think that's a nice number, man, for Harris. Because I do think if he wins, there's a decent chance it could be by submission in that scenario. So
Where do you
I
see
like that number a lot. That's on DraftKings. I haven't looked on FanDuel yet, but on DraftKings, plus 450.
It's a significantly better number than Bet Online. So
yeah. Oh, what's Bet Online?
Well, Bet Online last I checked was 375 for the Harris sub.
Yep, plus 450. So, all right, let's go to the final fight of the evening here. The main fight on the card. I feel like we might not all be on the same side here, but we'll see. We got Lerone Murphy, 8,500 on DraftKings versus Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza, the dog in this fight, 7,700. And right now, the line, Murphy is a minus 162 favorite here. I'll just start off. I'm on the Edson Barboza train. I think that Barboza, who's been around forever, we just watched a similar scenario where he fought Sadiq Youssef, and actually the last two fights fought Billy Q, and he was a dog. And everyone liked the other sides of those fights. They thought it was just going to be too much for Edson Barboza. He's old. He's this. He's that. At some point, when is he going to fall off? But this dude just finds ways to win and will out fights. Even that Youssef fight where I'm not saying he dominated Youssef. That fight went back and forth. That was a fucking war. He did win, and he deserved to win. But Youssef gave him all he could handle too. And, Edson just found ways in those rounds to get that decision win, whether it be, some takedowns timely, knockdowns. This dude is dangerous. And this is a fight for Lerone Murphy where he cannot just sit back. Well, one thing I do like is I do think Lerone Murphy's really talented. I think he's got all the skills to be really good. And this dude's super strong. He's got good hips, especially his lower half. You don't realize when you're looking at him, but the guy's got pretty big legs. He's really strong. But the one thing he doesn't do very often is he doesn't he's not just like domination. I'm going to overwhelm you. When he gets you hurt, he's smart about it. He's got high IQ, but Edson's going to erase all of that because Edson's going to go in and he's going to do what he does. And he's going to make things kind of more of like a warish where, I don't know, is Lerone Murphy going to be able to handle that when, he knocks him down and thinks he has Edson Barboza, and Barboza only needs a couple seconds and he's back up on his feet and he's good to go. And then he's giving it right back to him. I think Murphy's going to struggle with that. And in a 5-round fight, you got to win rounds. You got to actually go out there and win 5 rounds. I trust Edson to go win me 3 of those 5 rounds and gut it out, especially in the later rounds, more than I trust Lerone Murphy, who we just haven't seen it. Even though we've seen him win a lot of decisions, they're decision wins where, in my opinion, he's still not going for broke ever. And I think against someone like Edson Barboza, you have to really put it on him to win out these rounds. You'll against Sadiq Youssef, you saw Youssef really tried, but it was just Edson was too much in the end. I think it's a similar fight. I think Lerrone's going to have his moments. I think Edson's going to have his moments. I just think Edson's going to have more of those moments and could find a finish late too, 4th, 5th round. I do think he's live to find a finish late. So I'm on the Edson side. It was a little bit of a long, lengthy breakdown, but I do like this fight for, from like a viewer's perspective. I think it's a perfect fight for someone like Lerone Murphy to see how good he really is and to maybe bring out the best in him. Maybe he is a dog and is going to win a war like this, but I need to see it to believe it. Showdown, Christine, which side are you on? Murphy, Barboza?
I like Barboza. I think that his age does not define him. I think he's constantly evolving. I really like. I think both of these fighters are very similar, and I think that, and it's anybody's fight here, to be completely honest with you. But I think Barboza will have more of the volume. I think Barboza is live on the feet, and I think Murphy has the edge on the mat. Because he's got that double leg that is effective. But I think Barboza is very, very durable. I think he's battle tested. He's going to probably out volume, and I think Leron Murphy has the strength advantage, but I think Barboza has the technical advantage where if he's presented with a threat, he finds his path to get there. He's smart about keeping distance, and he's smart about reading the pocket and keeping himself out of danger. Whereas I think Leron is I think he can leave his chin open at times. And I think that I do like Barboza better here, but not by much. I think they both have equal chances of getting there. It all depends on how it plays out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right. So you're on the Barboza side. Not super confident, though. I feel like you think this is a very coin flippy fight.
Yeah.
Could go either way. Dan, what do you see here? Is this a close fight to you? And who do you got winning?
Brazil over England. I mean, Lerone
Yes.
Murphy is always in close fights. Like, that's just kind of what he does. I think Barboza, he's obviously got him in the experience department, especially like a 5-round fight experience. He's got that. I think he's legitimately like quicker, more powerful, better striking. Murphy probably has him on the mat because that's not really Barboza's game. But despite that, Murphy, I don't rate his wrestling all too highly, and he's not a submission threat, like almost at all. Like, he'll be on your back for a couple minutes, and he's just kind of like throwing weak little shots. And
he had Coulibaly. He had Coulibal's back for a few few minutes.
Just kind of done. Being on the back in sort of a bottom position is not like it's the dominant position. They're not going to take it away from you. But you can't really do much. You can't generate any power from down there. So could he get him down? Yeah, but what's he going to do once he gets him down there? And I just think Barboza outlasts him. I got Barboza by decision. I think it's like very similar vibes to the Yusuf fight, that if he can just survive the kind of opening flurry that Murphy throws at him, which, Murphy doesn't really even throw a whole lot of volume. So I'm not all that sure he's going to be able to get him out of there early, which is probably what I would be going for if I were him, similar to like Yusuf. Yusuf tried to get him out of there early. I think this plays out very similarly. I might be a little biased because I really am a big fan of Barboza. But yeah, I go Brazil over England, man.
When you get him hurt, dude, you have to follow up. You can't just because you saw how quick he can recover in that Yusuf fight, right? Like, the dude gets hurt, but you got to literally put this dude's lights out or finish him quickly, because once he gets just settled a little bit, he's good to go. So I agree with you. I don't think the edge on the ground is going to be that much. And I don't even think that he's going to be able to like hold Barboza and control him enough to like win a round with like you said, like with his back, but like not threatening, but giving him like little strikes and acting like he's trying to get a submission, but like I don't think that's going to win him rounds. I don't think he can control him like he did Koulibaly anyway. So yeah, we're all on the Barboza side. We're all on the dog. I didn't think we were all going to be on the dog, but we are. I got Barboza inside the distance. Dan has him by decision. Christine, what do you got? Decision or inside the distance?
Decision.
Decision. All right. Well, there we go. All three of us there. Let's give our favorite bet of the evening before we get out of here and get our cores and stuff up. Guys, if you want the content over at Run Pure Sports, core plays, cheat sheet from all of us, me, Dan, Christine, JBC, Big T, all of us over here. Check it out. Use that code Run Pure Sport or RPS15 for 15% off over at runpuresports.com and get all of that stuff. You can get single sport packages or the full thing with that code. So check us out. Dan, favorite bet of the evening?
Well, we already talked about Carlston Harris by sub. I love that. But I really like just Angela Hill money line. I think she takes care of business.
Love that. Showdown, Christine, favorite bet?
I'm going to go with my dog pick of the week, Brahimai by submission at plus 180.
All right. And I got Edson Barboza, money line, baby. Let's get it done, Edson. Show him what's up. I will be betting the KO number 2, but just take the money line and let's get that easy dub here. Hopefully. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. A little over an hour and a half. Again, we're going to be in the Discord chopping it up in a few minutes. Just got to finish up my content. All the content's going to be up though soon. So hope you enjoyed it. Until next week, hope everyone runs pure. We get some good fighting, win some money. And until then, Dan, Christine, and myself, we'll check you guys later. We're out of here. Peace.
Bye.